Meet Will Smith, a straight-up genius, a basketball star, and a certified headache waiting to happen back in West Philly. His single mom, Vi, lives for this kid, but Will's massive ego is his downfall. He gets into a beef with a gangbanger over a pickup game, and though Will wins, the whole thing blows up into a massive brawl. When his friend Trey gets jumped, Will pulls out a gun. The cops show up, and just like that bright future is gone. Luckily, his super rich, super connected Uncle Phil swoops in and bails him out. However, the streets aren't safe anymore, so Vi throws him on a plane, one-way ticket to the ridiculously rich, segregated world of Bel Air. Will lands in this mega bougie life. Uncle Phil is a big-shot lawyer running for district attorney, and he's married to Will's aunt, Vivian, Aunt Viv, an artist on hiatus. They've got the whole mansion deal and 3 kids. Hillary, the social media chef/influencer whose content is flopping. Carlton, the privileged, polished only son who's practically a walking caricature of white preppy culture. And Ashley, the youngest, who's just trying to figure it all out. The rivalry is instant. Will clashes hard with Carlton, who is so desperate to fit in that he lets his white friends toss around the N-word without batting an eye. To pour salt in the wound, Will immediately starts flirting with Carlton's ex, Lisa. Things hit a new level when Will makes the Bel Air basketball team, only for Carlton's slimy white friend, Connor, to frame him and get him suspended. Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil have to bring down the whole school to get that suspension reversed. The beef just gets worse because the parents actually like Will. He even helps Uncle Phil get back in touch with his frat roots by getting him to step at a reunion. Then, the ultimate betrayal. The family ditches Carlton's game to go to Will's instead. That move sends Carlton spiraling even further into drugs. The cousins finally call a truce for Uncle Phil's DA campaign. Their mission is to collect voter signatures in exchange for Phil flying Trey in from Philly for Will, and a Grand Prix trip for Carlton. They struggle at first until Will gets the brilliant idea to invite the voters to Phil's exclusive elite fundraiser. They pitch it as a united front, and Phil buys it. The event is a smash hit, except Phil has to say, "Defund the police," to the crowd. This instantly creates bad blood with Lisa's dad, Fred, who just happens to be the chief of police. Phil's sponsors bail, and then Fred decides to run against him. Uncle Phil decides to fund his campaign by dipping deep into his own pockets, without telling Aunt Viv. This betrayal sends Viv straight to a gallery owner named Reed. He wants to showcase her art and nominates her for a prestigious fellowship, but he clearly wants more than a business deal. Uncle Phil catches a whiff of this and crashes a party Reed is attending. The couple finally has it out. Viv blames Phil for letting her quit art 15 years ago, pointing out that a stranger is encouraging her, not her own husband. But Phil thought he was being helpful by making her comfortable and not pressuring her until she was ready. It's classic, good old-fashioned miscommunication, where Phil completely missed what his wife actually needed. Hillary had dropped out of college to be a cooking influencer, but her content is continually flopping. Her mom's embarrassed, and Hillary is tired of living off her family. She meets Jazz at his record store during her dad's campaign and realizes he's got 0 social media, so she sets up an account for him, which instantly blows up. This success finally gets her into a coveted content house. However, the house is tougher than she expected. The owner, Kylo, runs a tight ship. Under pressure to create an innovative viral video in 24 hours, Hillary pivots to sexualized cooking content. She doesn't post it, but the next day, it's all over the internet. It turns out Kylo can see all content created in the house and posted it without her consent. Hillary wants out, but then Kylo lands her a deal with Victoria's Secret for $15,000 per post. She changes her mind, only to quickly realize she'd have to keep doing exploitative content. She quits, but now owes Kylo $50,000 for breaking the contract. Resourceful Hillary manages to convince one of the other female influencers to buy the house, which conveniently buys her contract as well. After Will left Philly, the gang leader Rashad shot his friend Trey, though the boy survived. When Rashad sees a video of Will online, he realizes Will is in Bel Air. Jeffrey, aka G, Uncle Phil's house manager and resident fixer, pays Rashad off to leave Will alone. But Rashad gets greedy, realizing how rich Phil is, and demands more money. G doesn't mess around. He simply has Rashad killed. With the danger gone, everyone, Trey and Vi included, expects Will to come home, but Will decides to stay in Bel Air. This absolutely destroys his relationship with Trey, and gets him clowned online by his Philly friends. To distract himself, Will attends a fundraiser for Lisa's late mother, Gail. Lisa is trying to be polite, but she hates her stepmom, Angela, who always makes everything about herself. Angela tries her usual routine at the fundraiser, trying to forcefully make a speech, but Aunt Viv shuts her down fast, especially after learning that Fred and Angela started dating while Gail was still alive. Aunt Viv, putting Angela in her place, gives Lisa a surge of happiness. Even though Will has been avoiding her, because Carlton blackmailed him with the secret of Phil bailing him out of jail, Will and Lisa finally share their first kiss. They start dating secretly. A weird cliche, by the way. When Carlton finds out, he surprises everyone by being super chill, as long as Will doesn't hurt her. It's Will's 17th birthday, and his mom, Vi, is flown in. It's clear Vi and Aunt Viv have some unfinished business. Vi had sacrificed a lot for Viv's career, but when Viv got rich, she bailed, only sending money for their sick mother's care and leaving Vi with all the hard work. All that resentment bubbles up, but Viv finally apologizes for being an ass. Aunt Viv gets the Neiman Scholarship, but it means traveling the world. It's a tough decision with Phil's DA bid, but the choice is made easy when Fred discovers that Uncle Phil bent the law to get Will out of jail. Phil is forced to drop out of the race. This whole legal mess also breaks up Will and Lisa, who feels betrayed that Will kept such a huge secret from her. Will's woes intensify when his father, whom he was told abandoned him years ago, shows up. When Will first started asking about his dad, Uncle Phil instructed Jeffrey to block any searches. But Jeffrey, having abandoned his own son, felt it was wrong and gave Will the information anyway, which causes Uncle Phil to fire Jeffrey. But Uncle Phil knew exactly what he was protecting Will from, because it doesn't take long for Will's dad to show his true colors, blaming his prison stint on Will's mom pushing him to get rich. Will also learns his dad didn't abandon him, he was actually in prison, meaning they had been lying to him this entire time. All this betrayal, combined with the disastrous reunion, makes Will do the only thing he can think of, run away from home. Season 2 kicks off with Will refusing to return to the mansion after the huge revelation about his biological father, Lou. He's living in South LA with Jazz, dead set on proving he can make it without the bank's fortune. The turning comes at Ashley's 13th birthday party. Uncle Phil finally swallows his pride and gives Will a genuine, heartfelt apology for the lies. It's enough to bring Will home, but his fire for independence is still burning hot. Will's back at Bel Air Academy but still clashing with the system. When Ashley's progressive English teacher, Mrs. Hughes, is fired for including Black history books, Will organizes a massive student walkout protest with the BSU, a huge act of defiance. This puts Carlton in a terrible bind. He's running for the Founders Award, and when he's nominated as the face of the protest, the pressure is so overwhelming he has a panic attack. The school punishes Will by suspending him from the basketball team, which threatens his scholarship path. Will pivots to the elite AAU team, Zenith, run by Coach Doc. Doc only shows interest in Will after learning he is Phil's nephew, a huge red flag for Uncle Phil. Will starts getting close to Doc's niece, Jackie, but the suspicions are proven right. Doc is using the team for a massive, illegal scheme. He is taking bribes/payments from colleges in exchange for guiding specific players to those schools. If this scandal breaks, it would make all the Zenith hype players ineligible for college, effectively destroying their futures. Uncle Phil swoops in with his legal genius to expose the scam, force a buyout, and save the players' careers. Will officially cuts ties with Jackie, she was used to get to him, and earns his spot back on the Bel Air Academy team. While Will cleans up his mess, Carlton's perfect image is shattering. He's vying for the Founders Award in Princeton, while rival Drew, Lisa's current boyfriend, actively tries to sabotage him. Drew leaks the video of Carlton letting white kids use the N-word, causing Lisa to dump Drew and sending Carlton into a spiral of anxiety that he tries to fix with drugs. Things hit rock bottom when Carlton wakes up alone in an empty house after a drug-fueled hangout with Connor. Wallet, phone, gone. He can't face Phil, so he calls Aunt Viv and lies about mixing alcohol and anxiety meds. The final descent comes at the Founders Awards. Carlton can't function without drugs, and Ashley spots him trying to use in his locker. Shamed by his little sister, Carlton wins the award, but then delivers a tearful, public confession to the entire school. He's a drug addict. The scene ends with him breaking down in Phil's arms, and Aunt Viv immediately starts researching rehab facilities. With Phil out of the DA race, thanks to Will, he leaves his established firm to start his own, Philip Banks and Associates. To get it off the ground, he needs major clients, which is where Erica, Vivian's old friend and Phil's ex with powerful connections, comes in. Erica offers Phil a deal to join her firm as a senior partner who runs his own practice. We know this is a disaster waiting to happen. Erica has been vying for him since way back, but she's his lifeline. Phil accepts, but the professional partnership quickly turns personal when Erica pecks him, and Phil agrees to a dinner invitation. Recipe for cheating? It certainly looks like it. After Hillary convinced her influencer friend Ivy to buy her out of Kylo's content, They work together for a while but clash when Hillary gets an alcohol brand deal that directly clashes with her partner's own, causing them to separate. She begins running the content house herself and building something sweet with Jazz until her ex-boyfriend LaMarcus comes back to town. LaMarcus is a big deal football player, everything Jazz isn't, and LaMarcus is willing to spend to get his girl back. Hillary's parents like him too, which only makes Jazz so insecure that Hillary has to break up with him, choose LaMarcus, and jet off to Paris. Season 3 jumps right in, with Carlton returning from a 30-day stint in rehab, hyper-focused on staying sober and desperate to rebuild trust with his family, especially after discovering every door in his room has been removed. The boy has zero privacy and even less freedom. Will, on the other hand, is going through an identity crisis. After learning his dad was also a college basketball player, Will quit sports altogether and starts searching for a new purpose. He and Carlton join forces to launch Blackcess, a clothing brand aimed at funding other Black-owned businesses, with guidance from Quentin, a billionaire Will met at the Bel Air Country Club. For Will, it becomes a whole new lane. For Carlton, it's his ticket to redemption, or so he thinks. Carlton's fresh start gets shaky fast. His new girlfriend from rehab, Amira, immediately sets off alarm bells when she tells Aunt Viv she's still actively struggling with addiction and has relapsed multiple times. The fears are proven to be true when Lisa finds drugs in Amira's bag during a hangout. Amira lies, claiming it's for her dead sister's anniversary, but it's a total fabrication. She doesn't even have a sister. Lisa, already stressed by her new baby brother and trying to make the national swimming team, finally reports it to Will. Will confronts Amira just before his business presentation, and Amira, nearly drowns, but Lisa saves her. The whole thing becomes a trigger for Carlton to go back to drugs. But he doesn't. They ace their presentation and secure an investor for the Blackcess, which happens to be Drew's father, Carlton's nemesis. Hillary returns from her trip to Jazz, calling her a coward who runs away when things get hard at a family function. She replies by announcing her engagement to LaMarcus, but Jazz's head seems pretty strong because LaMarcus collapses during a practice game and is diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, HCM. After his recovery, he proposes again, and they are back on. Despite her engagement, the chemistry with Jazz is undeniable, and they share a kiss at Phil's law firm launch, both labeling it a mistake. They agree to a one last time talk for closure, but Hillary ends up forgetting her engagement ring in Jazz's shoe. Jazz flies out to deliver it, finds her at wedding prep, and of course, LaMarcus catches the moment. Hillary is forced to admit the kiss. Despite all these, and LaMarcus being the runaway groom for a little bit, they say, "I do." Unfortunately, the celebration barely lasts. On their honeymoon, Hillary wakes up to find LaMarcus unconscious, presumably another HCM episode, leaving his fate hanging in the balance. Uncle Phil is fighting his own battles. In the race to elevate his firm, he partners with high-powered developer Omar Campbell, a man whose project threatens to wipe out small neighborhood businesses, including Uncle Charlie's record shop. The community hates Phil for it, and Will is unhappy with the choice. He decides to join a protest that turns into vandalism against Campbell's property. He backs out when it escalates to arson, but Jazz is arrested. Will is forced to confess the truth about the vandalism to Fred Wilkes to clear Jazz's name. Phil, proud of Will's honesty, secures Jazz's release and covers for Will. But professionally, Phil is forced to clean up the mess his own client helped create. Though Uncle Phil never pursued a personal relationship with Erica, keeping it from Viv has driven a wedge between them. On their anniversary, they finally have a real, honest conversation and decide to get away alone for a weekend. One of their married friends mentions swinging as their secret to staying fresh, and Viv and Phil trying to save their marriage. Try it. They quickly realize it's not for them, and the whole ordeal actually brings them closer. After the trip, Viv ends up with a positive pregnancy test, hinting a new baby is on the way. The lovebirds Lisa and Will are back together, but there's some tension with Will still being friends with Jackie, and Jackie trying to do stuff for Will that makes Lisa uncomfortable. Ultimately, the lovebirds sort it out, and they are good now. Until Jeffrey's past comes crashing. Jeffrey is tracked down by members of his old organization from London, including Roman, demanding his return to the gang and threatening his ex, Penelope, and their son Frederick, who are back in town. Jeffrey offers to pay them off instead, but when he realizes they are not going to stop after his initial payment, which only means trouble for his family and the banks, he ditches town with his family. But Jeffrey's sacrifice doesn't solve anything. Unable to locate him, the gang heads to the last place they know, Jeffrey's apartment. Instead of Jeffrey or Frederick, they find Will, who came to check on him. In the final, terrifying moments of the season, Will is kidnapped, leaving his fate unknown and the Banks family completely unaware of the horror that has descended upon them.